And the years that we spent together here were unexplainable. They were moments that we shared that were really, really special and really meaningful. And when I got involved in putting this together, I couldn't think of anybody. I couldn't think of anybody that I'd rather do it with than John Capriotto. So, John?
After school and drive to the junior senior building. I remember getting on the bus with all the football guys, a few of the basketball guys, and all the other sports. Most of the people on my bus, of course, were the football players. I was the smallest dude on the bus, by far. By the time I got on the activity bus, all the seats were taken except for one spot, right next to the biggest football player in the entire Chicagoland area. Needless to say, I didn't say a word on the 20-minute ride to the junior senior division. As we got off the bus, one of the football coaches was waiting for us, another large human being. He took one look at me and said, "Please tell me you aren't going out for football." He was horrified. I was horrified. He scared the hell out of me. I asked him, "Where does the cross-country team meet?" He yelled at me, "Cross-country? You're way too small to be running cross-country." He pointed me down this long hallway, past the old beat-up locker rooms. I remember walking down and ending up by one of the equipment rooms. There was a huge, buff-looking coach in the room with huge guns. He had the biceps down the side here. I knocked lightly on the door as his back was towards me. Without looking at me, he said, "Can I help you?" in a strong weightlifter-type voice. As he turned around to face me, I said, "I want to go out for cross-country." He said, "You?" I just shook my head yes. He then proceeded to open up all the equipment drawers and start pulling out equipment and handing it to me. All of it, every single piece, mind you, was way too big. I remember my first race, my singlet kept falling down. My mother had to sew it up about 5 inches so that it would work for me. A few pieces he gave me even had holes in them. As he stacked the equipment in my hands, he said to me, "Take care of this product. It's worth more than you are." Ouch. Ouch. Very inspirational. Little did I know that this conversation would start a 45-year relationship with Coach Miller. Oh. When I got home that evening, I said garlic bread, the big salad, the big Capriotto Chianti balloon wine that my dad made in the basement. The whole thing was going on. The first thing my dad asked me was, "How was cross-country practice today? Did you meet Coach Miller?" He was a huge fan of Coach Miller. My brothers and sisters were sitting, they couldn't wait for me to answer this question. I looked at him and said, "Dad, do you think if I started lifting weights every day, twice a day, that I could play linebacker for Blue High School?" Instead of running cross country. He took his little Chianti glass and did one of set it down. I don't think that's going to work. From that night, I officially became a track and field guy from the moment on, and Coach Miller would end up being my coach for life. The deck was definitely stacked against me. 5 years later, as I was in junior college, I had run pretty fast that year, and I was being recruited by everybody. I got a call from Coach Miller. He said, "Cap, I think I'm going to get the job at Cal Poly, and I'd like you to come with me." And I was getting ready to go on a recruiting trip to Arkansas, which I took. The next weekend I went to Illinois, then Southern Illinois, where Jan Johnson, sitting right out here, was on the staff. And about 2 weeks later, Jeff Small and I went with Coach Miller on our visit during spring break to visit Cal Poly. Jeff was also considering Cal Poly as he ran for Coach Miller at Bloom High School. It didn't take long for me. It was developed under Coach Miller while I was here attending Cal Poly. I will never forget my time here. I think about it all the time. All those Olympic Games I've been at, all those World Championships. I always had my teammates, my time at Cal Poly. It was very influential for me. Simply put, my decision to join Coach Miller at Cal Poly changed my life. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, and one that will keep me in his debt forever. Our first year that we won our first cross-country national championship, 1978, I remember our first meet at Woodward Park. If you run cross-country in the West Coast, everybody has run at Woodward Park. It was the first meet of the year. And they called us to the line. We had about 10 minutes to go, and we're all standing there. I remember Coach started at the far end with Schenkel, and he started giving everybody a slap on the face. Eric Hoff, and Rob. And I noticed, as he came down the line, the slaps were getting a little bit harder. The last three guys, I think it was Mitch, me, and that skinny little Ricket from Petaluma, Danny Albert. And I started, shaking. I'm like, wait, this guy, next guy, bam. He gets to me, he gives me a good one on the side of the face. I'm like, wow, that was a good one. Next guy was Danny Albers, and I don't know what happened, but he caught Danny really hard. Danny's knee went down like this, he had his knee in his face. Danny was pissed. I'll never forget that. I think those 6 or 7 slaps in the face set us on our way to the first of 5 national championships. I never used that technique when I coached. It worked very well. Years later, after I got out of college coaching, Coach Miller asked me to join him at Nike. He was the global sports marketing director. I started there as a field rep and running track and field. My job was to recruit athletes, service athletes, and develop relationships. When I got there, I was trying to plan on what athletes we would sign going into the 1996 Olympics. I had the budget. I remember going over it, and one of our best athletes, one of the athletes that I thought most strongly about, they hadn't planned to re-sign. So I remember working, trying to figure out how we're going to re-sign this guy, how I would get the money for him. And once a month, there's a Wednesday meeting at Nike. That's where the biggest sports marketing issues of the time are discussed, whether it's global soccer, football, basketball, it doesn't matter. My boss, Rudy Chapp at the time, was out of town in Kenya. He said, Cap, you're going to have to go to this meeting. If you want this athlete that bad, you're going to have to go to this meeting with Phil Knight and his lieutenants and make your case. I remember going down to Steve Miller. I wasn't looking for a slap in the face, although I could have heard one, used one because I was so worried. I remember sitting there with him, Coach, what are we going to do? He goes, no, they hired you to do a job. You've been involved in sport forever. You need to go in that room and tell them what you think. So I said, but you're going to be there. You come back. He goes, no, I'll be traveling that weekend. So, of course, just like a visit to the dentist. For the next 4 days, I worried about this. Finally, we had the meeting, and it was a long list of, we were just getting in international football or soccer at the time. There was a lot of arguing in that room. It was, and I was very last item on the list there. We had the meeting. I made my argument. At the end of the day, we got the money. And a year and a half later, Michael Johnson, with the gold shoe, was the hero of the Atlanta Olympics. I credit Coach Miller. These are my stories. These are Cap's stories. I have no doubt that each and every former athlete of Coach Miller has impactful, life-learning, and unforgettable stories of their own and how Coach influenced their lives. He was always there for us. I gave his Hall of Fame induction several years ago at Cal Poly and told people that there are constants in the world and there are variables. Steve Miller was always a constant, always, always there for us. I always wonder, how do you know if yourself had positive influence on people's lives? I was a coaching 12 years before I joined Nike, as a grad assistant at K-State, as a women's coach at Northwestern, and back to Kansas State as a head men and women's coach. One thing I always enjoyed most was when one of my former athletes called me and thanked me for the times we had together, the passion I had in trying to make them better, all of whom I've got from Coach Miller, and the appreciation and dedication for trying to make them better. The best you can be is what counts in this sport and what's important to you. And Steve Miller gave me those traits. Coach Miller handed down many life lessons to us. That's indisputable. And I assume he handed down those learnings to many people in this room tonight. Did Coach Miller influence others? I'll let you decide. Did he have a positive impact on people's lives? No doubt. You only have to take a quick look around the room to answer that question. People came from all over the country to be here to show their support and love for Coach. Last night, I put together a list of schools where former athletes of Steve Miller's have worked. The Coach Miller coaching tree, if you will. I like to read them off in no particular order. I have no doubt I missed a lot, and I didn't even hit the high school zone where there's probably 3 dozen coaches in there. University of Arkansas, Kansas State, University of Wyoming, Marshall, TCU, Arizona State, University of Arizona, Northwestern University, University of Illinois, SMU, Stanford, Kennesaw State, San Diego State, Washington State, Sonoma State, San Francisco State, Cal Poly, Indiana State, Duke University, University of Toledo, Northern Illinois, University of South Carolina, Mesa College, Barton County College, Cuesta, Contra Costa. One day I'd like to sit with some of the alumni and figure out who all the high school coaches were. All these people were athletes. I coached these universities were athletes of Coach Miller. It's without doubt a testament to Coach Miller and the positive impact he had on all of our lives, that so many of us have chosen the same profession that he chose. Now the baton has been passed to all of us. Can we continue the Coach Miller legacy of coaching young people, teaching young people, molding young people into outstanding citizens, motivating them to perform and compete beyond their own imagination and ability level, teaching the meaning of accountability, to strive for greatness, to build a team identity or culture, and to assist in the betterment of society, so that those athletes can go on and tell their stories, just as Coach Miller did for us.